Kentucky went to Knoxville and they beat Tennessee 78-73. The one takeaway was just how the game ended. Tennessee had been fighting. They had, I believe, a double-digit lead, but their defense kept them in the game. Sakai Ziegler made a few layups, and Tennessee fought back. And as the game was winding down, it was, I believe, a one or two possession game, and Tennessee just kept taking three after three, and it did not go in. The one person that did not take a 3-point shot was Milicek, who was 4 for 8. So he shot 50%, and I believe the announcers were saying, they got to get him the ball. They got to make sure that he gets a touch, and he didn't get a touch. And so when I was at Pepperdine, one of the things that we had put in place was this idea of a streak. So what a streak was, when you go on a cold streak and you're not making shots, the only guys that are allowed to take shots when you call a streak are the guys that have a specific shooting percentage. And that shooting percentage is attributed or accumulated through practice and through games. So you had to have a specific shooting percentage, essentially about 33%, in order to be able to take a shot. If you did not have if you did not meet that standard and we called a streak, then you could not take a 3-point shot regardless if it was open. You had to move the ball. You had to look for a better option. Also at the high school level, we also implemented this, and this was again before analytics. This was before, this is more like 1990s basketball. It was the idea of like you could always get a 3-point shot whenever you wanted to, and you want to make sure that you move the ball and you want to get the ball inside to get the closest possible shot, which was then believed to be the best possible shot, which was a mid-range layup or something inside the arc. And so when I finished grad school, I took a course through Michigan in which they, on analytics, in which they discussed this idea if this notion of a cold streak actually existed, and through the data they didn't find anything, and they said that it was not there. But I think also, so statistically, this it's not a cold streak is not something that really happens. But we do see situations where teams essentially shoot themselves out of the game. And I think that's what happened with Tennessee. It happened with both the men's and the women's in the last couple of games. The women's, they were 3 for like 25 from the 3-point line against South Carolina. And Tennessee last night, to close out the game, just did not make a single 3-point shot. And so I do believe in this idea that when, you have to look for better options, especially if it's not going in. So if you're taking 2 or 3 consecutive threes and the game's on the line, get to the free throw line, get inside, move the ball, even go old fashioned and just throw the ball into the post and try to generate something through there. And then obviously if it gets kicked out, then, you want your best 3-point shooter to actually be able to one that shoot the ball. And I felt like that was the failure of that game, was the best 3-point shooter did not get a touch and did not get the opportunity to shoot a 3-point shot. And Ziegler kept taking threes, even though he was 1 for 11. And I really like him as a player. I think he's a really good point guard. But I mean, some of those threes just had no chance of going in. They were short. They were to the side. I mean, you can tell that his touch was not there. And so again, the takeaway here is that, the analytics and the math are there, and they support the idea that you have to shoot 3-point shots because they have a higher expected value. But also from a basketball perspective, there's a sense of like when you need to take that shot and when that shot's going to be available, right? That 3-point shot is going to be available, especially if you go inside. If you're trying to get to the free throw line, you're trying to get a better shot. That 3-point shot's going to be there. And I think sometimes you just need the ball to go to the hoop, and Tennessee just needed the ball to go into the net, and hopefully that would have helped them out, 2 or 3 possessions down the line when they get an open shot, and also when they get their best 3-point shooter with the ball. So I felt like it was just a failure of identifying who needed to shoot the ball and what shot was the best shot at that specific point in time. And so, in the end, Tennessee loses, and Kentucky's able to go in there. And so that's one of the things I worry about Tennessee in terms of their offense. I can't remember a time where they had that streaky shooting that you can count on, where you had those guards you can count on, you depend on to get make shots and big shots that would take you to the Final Four or even past the Final Four through a championship game. I don't know if Tennessee has that. I love their defensive mindset. I love their physicality. But I felt like the failure of that game was just unable to identify who needed to take a shot and what was the best shot that needed to be taken at a specific point in time. And analytics does help you with that, but also just common basketball common sense is necessary at times to balance that out a little bit. And so again, you want to make sure that you're the guy that's shooting 50% for the night is 4 for 8. gets a look, and he just did not get a look. I don't know if that would have meant that it goes in or not, but still, it's a better option than going 1 for 11 or having other guys who are not sniffing anywhere close to 33%. I mean, yeah, you had 3 for 10 and 2 for 8. So, so yeah. Anyways, moral of the story here is time and place, shot, knowing what shot you need to take, especially from a point guard position, who needs to get the ball is key if you want to if you want to advance in the tournament. And that's the reason why Kentucky was able to hold off Tennessee and pull out the win.